Hello, BookTube, and welcome to Weekly Reads. Um, I've had a very good reading week, despite my very subdued manner. Today has been a rather horrid day, except for reading. The reading was great. Everything else, uh, okay. Anyway, so I started the reading week with Greece, Biography of a Modern Nation by Roderick Beaton. This is a history of Greece from the late 18th century when, through through inspiration from the Enlightenment, the first kernels of Greek nationalism formed. Um, Initially as an attempt to reform the Ottoman Empire, which for centuries controlled what is now Greece, and eventually a separatist movement that uh, launched in 1821 the Greek War for Independence, or the Greek Revolution. And the history goes through to contemporary Greek history with the um, endemic financial problems plaguing Greece since the 2008 economic crisis and the um, attempts to uh, restore the Greek economy. I really enjoyed this book. It is a phenomenal history, well written, enjoyable to read. I think if I had one quibble with it, it would be Beaton doesn't really spend a whole lot of time focusing on the junta that took over in Greece from the late 60s to the early 70s. Not much attention is paid to this junta, and it would also maybe um, there isn't much in the way of cultural history during the late 19th, late 20th, and early 21st centuries. It's mostly the political history dominates. And while a lot of the book is devoted to Greek cultural history and cultural developments, the later parts of the book don't really touch on it quite so much. But besides that, I really enjoyed every moment I spent with this book. And the same is true of The Fall of the Ottomans, The Great War in the Middle East, 1914 to 1920 by Eugene Rogan. This is a history of many things involving the Ottomans. It is a history of the fall of the Ottoman Empire. It's a history of the Ottoman Empire in the Great War. And it's a history of the Middle Eastern theater, which mostly involves the Ottomans of World War One. And I loved every moment with this book too. It was highly enjoyable. Um, if I had some critiques of the book, it's um, not enough attention is paid to the Ottomans, particularly in regards to their role in World War One and the Middle Eastern theater, for lack of a better term. Um, while the book is The Fall of the Ottomans, a lot of these parts are narrated or written more from a British perspective. British voices um, predominate over Ottoman uh, voices. Particularly like with Gallipoli, certainly Kut is very much written from the British perspective. The Palestine campaign, again, very British centric and imperial centric. Um, so that was one thing that kind of bugged me. Another thing is that essentially the fall of the Ottomans really happens with the Ottoman acceptance of the Treaty of Sèvres, which pretty much was the end of the First World War for the Ottomans. And the rejection of this treaty by Mustafa Kemal and his nationalist movement, which essentially when Mustafa Kemal won the Turkish War of Independence and basically ended the Ottoman Sultanate, basically that was the fall of the Ottomans, and had the Ottomans sided with Mustafa Kemal, they very well might still be around. But they didn't, so they were abolished. And I don't think enough attention was paid to that part. Very much the history is the Ottomans in World War One. So even though the fall of the Ottomans comes slightly later, it's not as in focus. But besides those two critiques, I really enjoyed this book. So for this upcoming reading week, I'm going to be reading firstly a book that I hauled just today, even though I've had it for a few weeks. But anyway, this is Dictatorland by Kenyon. This is a look at the various dictators that have ruled various African countries for a while. Let's go check the table of contents. So there's like chapters on Congo and Zimbabwe, Libya, Eritrea, Cote d'Ivoire. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I've read a bit from the introduction, or the first chapter, and really enjoyed it. So I'm really looking forward to getting to this. And once I finish Dictatorland, if I manage to finish it, because I'm thinking I'll finish it on Monday. Although there's a good chance I could finish it on Sunday. Normally my weekend reading is I will read from 9:30 in the morning to 7 on Saturday and 9:30 to 6 on Sunday. Nearly nonstop. I'll take a break for lunch and supper, but for the most part I'm reading. So there's a good chance I could possibly finish the book on Sunday if I have two really good reading days, and I can get 200 plus pages read both days. If not, I'll finish it on Monday, and there's really no need to finish it before Monday. So if I have some time on Monday, I'll either start the second book I'm going to focus on, or I'll read some manga, and I'll report back on that next weekly reads. But the other book I'm really looking forward to getting to this week is a collection of poetry that I've had for a while now, and that is Louise Gluck's Poems 1962 to 2012. I'm definitely looking forward to. This is a big chunk of a book, and I'm really looking forward to diving in. So those are my plans reading wise. So I want to circle back to the book haul earlier today. I know I was not terribly enthusiastic, which has absolutely nothing to do with the books I picked up. It is that I was in a bit of a rush. I wanted to finish the end of the Fall of the Ottomans today, and I had about 95 or so pages to go. So I wanted to get an early start than I normally do on the work week, which I normally read from 2 to 6:30 with a few breaks for supper. So I was trying to hurry it up, and obviously I ended up making a lot of mistakes. And I ended up making, I think, there were over 10 takes before I got that final one, and I'm like, I'm just going to go with it, even though by that point I was exhausted and not terribly enthusiastic. But I'm really looking forward to reading the books that I've picked up this month. But given that I was in a rush, I did forget a few things. One thing I do like to end my book hauls is a preview of what I'm looking for in the following month. And I didn't do that, in part because I thought there was going to be a bit of an emergency, so I cut it short. But I'll go ahead and do the fill-in here. So, given that pretty much everything I had on order came in the last 3 days. The Princeton University Press order came in on Wednesday, and then the Big Book of Science Fiction came in on Thursday, and then Poems by Elizabeth Bishop and the Collected Poems of Philip Larkin came in today. So given I had that, I only have one book kind of on pre-order coming in August, and so I'm fairly free to kind of in what I pick up. Although I'm going to try not to go or have such a large book haul. I mean, honestly, a book haul like I did today really should only be for your birthday month. And that's not till November. And yes, I do intend to have a pretty large one in November, if I can manage it. Anyway, so some books I'm looking for towards in August are like subjects and genres I want to pick up. I want to continue with my global history project, probably which is focusing on the Caribbean, Africa, and India, South Asia, Southeast Asia. I want to also add Korea to this list. And I'll see if I can find some Korean history books to pick up. I also want to look for some space opera. September is Space Opera September, which is a booktube reading event created and hosted by Paul of SFF, or not Paul, I'm sorry, Thomas Wagner of SFF 180. I have no idea where Paul came from. And it's a reading event that has a lot of prompts and challenges. And this year's Space Opera September, I think, is going to be pretty interesting. Although I don't know exactly what Thomas has planned. But I do need to add more space opera to my collection. I don't have nearly as much as I would like. And I'm also going to probably focus a bit on Victorian literature, because I do want to participate in Victober. And I want a good selection to choose from, rather than being stuck with one or two books and not necessarily enjoying them. So that'll be my plan. I also want to get some more poetry and anything else that strikes my fancy. So, and we'll see where I go with that at the end of August. I also would like to go to Golden's Book Exchange, which is one of the used bookstores in Waco. That's my favorite used bookstore in Waco. But I don't know if I'm going to get to go because obviously one of the reasons why today has been a horrid day might very well negate me being able to go. Also, COVID is, or COVID cases are increasing locally. They've returned to daily COVID updates, which they hadn't done for a few months. So that's got me worried. I am fully vaccinated. I have been for months. And I also wear a mask when I'm out, whether it's in confined spaces or just walking down the street. But I'm still kind of concerned because Golden's is, as much as I love it, it is very cramped. Which, generally for a bookstore, that's a great thing. But, yeah, not necessarily for preventing infections and stuff. So, I don't know. I need to broach the topic with my brother. But we'll see how that goes. And I'll report back. Also, next week is a War's birthday, so that might be problematic or not. I don't know. So we'll see, and I'll report back next week. So anyway, BookTube, thank you. Have a great week and weekend. Or I'm sorry. Have a great evening and weekend. Hopefully, I will have a great evening and weekend too, or at least weekend. And then we'll see you next week with some tags and weekly reads. So until then, BookTube, stay safe.